Hi, everybody. I'm Toby McLeod, and I'll be hosting today. I hope some of you have had a chance to watch one or two of the Standing on Sacred Ground films that we've shown so far. Standing on Sacred Ground film series, Jessica Abbey, who's on here with us, who I happen to be married to, is the writer and co-producer of the film series. And we took about 7 years to make the films, 8 different locations around the world, and I hope some of you have had a chance to watch. The first film took us to the Altai Republic in Siberia and the Winnemem Wintu up north in Northern California. And the second hour, which is called Profit and Loss, which we've been streaming this week, takes us up to the Alberta tar sands and also the Ramu Nikko mine in Papua New Guinea, which is owned by the Chinese government. And so the films trace 8 different cultures around the world, protecting sacred places and defending indigenous territories against all kinds of threats. The second film, which I hope, again, some of you had a chance to watch, is a tough film and goes to tar sands, which is a devastating story up in Alberta in the boreal forest in Canada. And it's something that Winona's worked hard on. The Standing Rock pipeline struggle had to do with tar sands oil coming down into the United States from Canada. And also there's a pipeline proposed through northern Minnesota, where Winona's from, called Enbridge Line 3, which she's been fighting for 4 or 5 years now. So a couple minutes after 12, hoping Winona will get with us soon. And if any of you guys have questions for me, let me know. I can watch the chat and also the Q&A. And I have a couple film clips of Winona. Let me just see how this works.
I believe that power that we have as people doesn't come from us. It comes from the Creator and from the sources of power that are there on the land. We may not have all the guns, we don't have all the pens, we don't have all the courts, but we have that power. And that's what keeps people able to battle for so long against such hard odds. We end up with a belief that it doesn't matter what we do here because salvation is someplace else. And so let them mine, let them dam. We have run out of places to conquer, new places to mine, new places to dam. The remaining oil resources are still there, but they're in places that it is untenable or difficult to get. They are now coming to those most remote places. The Ramu nickel mine, tar sands of Alberta.
Hey, Winona.
Hi, I'm sorry to worry you.
Oh, I wasn't worried. I knew you'd be here. Nice to see you. How you doing?
Good, good. I think I'm going to open this curtain to get a little lighter in my little world here. Hold on.
Sounds good. Yeah, I've been reading the Zoom etiquette. You got to pay attention to the lighting. Wow, that's a nice painting.
It's a work in progress.
That's yours?
Well, I'll tell you a secret. You know me long enough. So what it is this piece. So this guy is awesome. His name is Nagani Benes, so I usually position myself like this. The problem is that when he did it, the artist, his name is Jonathan Thunder. He was in this really dark psychedelic period, so the window was like black and red. So I decided that since I own the painting, I would fix the window and make it like a positive future scene. So it's a work in progress. I'm like, some people would call it defacing, I would call it improving. Oh, am I live?
You're live.
Oh, hi. Hi, Jonathan Thunder. Anyway, nice to see you. Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch that whole movie again, man. That's good. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, and that's going to be a painting within a painting is what I'm seeing behind you now. So that's...
Yeah, I mean, so we'll see. And I'm taking, like, I got the basic idea, and I'm not my mother. You know, so my mother's a good artist, but I you know, I had this painting for like 9 years, and I was like, oh, if only that part wasn't like that, so bleak. And I was like, hey,
Awesome.
I better do a good job though.
Well, let me introduce you. We've got a whole lot of people with us. They're going to be listening and watching and not so much visually. You know, we're not going to create the Zoom screen with 100 people and their faces. But anyway, I'd like to welcome Winona, old friend, Anishinaabe or Ojibwe from northern Minnesota, where the wild things are. And it's great to have you. You know, we've been running the Standing on Sacred Ground films for the last couple weeks. This last hour was the tar sands and Papua New Guinea folks fighting against a Chinese government-owned mine. I'm sure there are people who've watched the films who are listening, and also some who just want to hear some of what you have to say at this insane, scary time that we're living in. I thought I would start by asking you about that, how you're doing with COVID-19 out there, and how you see this as a, you know, like an epic prophesized moment. What's your take on this current earth-changing moment that we're living in?
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, there's a lot of things to be said. You know, our families are doing pretty good. We live out in the woods, you know, and so, you know, I had a rigorous travel schedule planned where I was going to talk about a lot of important things. And then I just went home. And maple syruping season started, which is kind of like the Ojibwe New Year. So Happy New Year. You know, we all went out in the woods and made medicine for a month. That's what I've been doing. You know, and interesting, I think everybody has this too, where time changes. Doesn't time change when you're in quarantine?
Yeah, what day is it today? I mean,
yeah, I had you down. I had this one, but I have to write a note to myself every day that's like big things, you know, the rest of the world things. You know, because when you're in maple syruping, it's only did the sap run or not? Because that's 5 hours worth of hauling, cooking, you know what I'm saying? So your day is the sap going to run or not? Right? And now it's planting time, you know, so it's a different land-based, localized way of life. And I think it's very healthy. You know, I mean, I'm quarantined with like 7 kids, of course, and 20 horses or something, but the kids' numbers goes up to 10, 15. You know, we're all, you know, we just hang out and do good stuff. So I think it's this, you know, so that's like, I'm really sorry about the sadness that this causes a lot of people. I also see, you know, for our place, it makes us be the people we're supposed to be, you know, not, you know, so we have to get real basic here. And it's, you know, reaffirming relationships, and we feel pretty good up here. You know, we don't have a case in Hubbard County. I don't think there's anything, you know, it's just to say we went back in the woods. You know, that seemed like a good plan. So, you know, I feel pretty good. And then, you know, in the bigger, more philosophical picture, I mean, Aaron Dottie Roy, you know, was talking about the pandemic as a portal. It was a really interesting thought, because it's like, it changed the world. It did. You know, and then what she said is like, so you're going to drag all that stuff from the last world into the next one? Or are you going to travel a little more light? And I like that. I like that we have this opportunity in this Happy New Year to figure out, you know, what it's like to consume 20% less fossil fuels. You know, what it's like to not count on food coming in from Tyson's because they aren't going to have no meat factories. You know, what it's like to relocalize. So I think it's a moment to do great things, and it really does usher in and requires kind of, I don't want to call it the green, well, we'll call it the Green New Deal, you know, but it requires this transformation. And, you know, I don't think any Native person wants to say, I told you so, you know, but at some level, it's kind of like, we told you this for a long time, you got to quit doing dumb stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
the minute we got quarantined here, I started paying attention to some of the films we have on YouTube, and Thomas Banyakia's Hopi Prophecy videos that we've got out there. The numbers were going up, viewing numbers, as fast as the COVID-19 cases were going up. It was like people were really thinking about the fact that we've had warnings about abusing the earth for a long time. Humanity has suffered in, you know, past worlds have gone under for this kind of greed. And so I'm curious how you see that, how do we take advantage going into a new world and try to really give the Green New Deal and a humane economy a real sense of momentum from the start when we come out of this? Because the other side is trying to figure out how, whether it's fascism or more oil, they're getting ready. How do we, take advantage of this moment coming out?
Well, first get going. Don't spend too much time navel gazing, just get busy. I want to say, like, a lot of people want to think about a lot of things, and we all went pretty deep. I went pretty deep last month, but it's like in that depth, I figured out that most of the things I probably need are within 50 miles of here. I like that Wes Jackson milling about theory. You ever hear him talk about that? Like, he's like, just kind of mill about and it'll be a lot better. Don't be like super ambitious. Don't gotta like drive your car 80 miles every day. So just get going. It's time to birth the next economy. It's time to, like, I consider myself a doula. You need a lot of doulas. Time to birth this one. And, but some of it, I'm sitting there and I don't want to cry for the tar sands oil producers, but minus $37 a barrel is not a good price for oil.
Yeah. You get more for your maple syrup now, right?
Yeah, my maple syrup. I was laughing when the quote in the Canadian media was, "It's cheaper to buy a barrel of Canadian oil than the barrel of monkeys game." That's when it was like $7 a barrel. And then it went down to minus 37. And so, there's this intersection, between the Soviet, or the Russian Saudi price war on oil, the, incredible greed, of Wendigo economics of this. We're just going to try to get as much out of that tar sands as we can and get everybody to pay for it and subsidize it, $82 a barrel. And then this like intersection of things, these guys always act like they're so smart, but you and I know that they're not so smart, we've been fighting pipelines for a long time here, and Enbridge is super desperate, but they already cut back 125,000 barrels a day because the refineries aren't refining. And isn't there like 20% of world's oil supply sitting off the coast of California right now or something? Yeah. In some tankers or something, because someday someone's going to use that.
Yeah, they're all full and circling out there. So did you see about a month ago when Teck Resources, there was a huge tar sands mine proposed? They spent like 10 years. It was going to be a $15 billion project. When I was up filming at the Chippewan, First Nation, they were really concerned about that project because it was just going to, they're all horrible, but it was going to be one more, destroy the boreal forest and the wetlands. And when they dropped that project a couple months ago, it seemed to me like maybe that was a turning point. So I'm wondering.
Yeah, I feel like it was like February 26th, because I think I was speaking in upstate New York, and that was the day the Constitution pipeline was canceled. And then the next day that Teck project was canceled. I was like, looks like, we've been fighting so hard against the stupid ideas. You and I know that. I spent my whole life fighting stupid ideas, man. And here you are, and you're fighting and you're hanging on and you're praying, and the system's against you, and they pay this and pay that, and they bought this off, and they militarize the North Country. They try to demonize you and take your civil rights against, standing up for First Amendment rights. And then one day the price of oil, bam, So I'm just looking at it, and the Keystone, a couple of weeks ago, a federal judge in Montana put the X to the nationwide permits on all of those pipeline projects that the Army Corps was just go ahead, right? And, Trump was ready to send in all those workers, but, too bad about that. And here in Minnesota, Enbridge is so trying to move ahead, and the regulatory system has been a sham here, because there's no reason any permits should have been issued. February 3rd, we come back for a last hearing at the Public Utilities Commission. They get ready to rubber stamp all of the permits again, and one commissioner says, hey, wait, hey, this is a bad idea. So they didn't get a unanimous approval. That was February 3rd. It is what now? End of April? We don't have a formal position out of the PUC for 3 months. Enbridge has been rolling out people, and then we pointed out to the governor that Enbridge wants to bring 4,300 workers into remote counties like Hubbard, where there are no COVID cases in northern Minnesota. And you want to tell us that that's not a health problem? Think again. You know, so, you know, Enbridge is desperate, but they got about half the oil that's in their present pipeline already not coming already. So it's like, you know, where's the need, buddy? You know, I don't know. We're just going to keep pushing. And the longer we push, you know how this goes, the worse it is for them.
Yeah. Let's take a little, for the listeners, let's take a little step back and talk about it. I mean, you know,
sorry about that, listeners.
The price of oil is a big deal.
Hold on a second, Melina. Washer? Thank you. I have a real old washer.
The price of oil, big deal for tar sands. They need it to be like, you know, 50, 60 bucks.
No, $82 a barrel, tar sands barrel. It's the most expensive and dirtiest oil in the world.
And it has no way to move. So that's why all these pipelines. So can you tell a little bit of back up?
Oh yeah, sorry about that. Yeah.
That's all right. Just, you know, from Standing Rock, the battle against the pipeline, to the, you know, like what's the picture right now with fighting all these different pipelines? Several have been canceled. We still got Trans Mountain is still barely on life support. And then, and you're fighting Enbridge, which is going to maybe go through northern Minnesota. And then Keystone, what's going on with the
the big it's $82. I don't know, Canadian or US. I think it's Canadian from Julie. Okay, so listen, this is the story is first of all, I'm all for infrastructure. I just want infrastructure for people, not for oil companies. Like, it's not like they don't need pipes in Flint, Michigan. You know, we need pipes a lot of places, but we need pipes for people, not for oil companies. So it's like Enbridge, go put pipes up someplace where people want them. You know, I mean, I think it's this fundamental question about who gets to decide what America's infrastructure is, right? And so that's what this Green New Deal gives us, this opportunity in an enlightened reality to discuss. But, you know, in the bigger picture of Wendigo economics, what you have is this oil that's, you know, considered like domestic somehow from the US, which is in the tar sands. You know, it's the third largest supplier of oil, or source of oil reserves. The first is actually Venezuela, but you know, they can't get the Venezuelan oil so easy. So they've been focusing on the tar sands. 3 years ago, there was 5 proposals for pipelines, 5 of them. One was called Northern Gateway. It was an Enbridge proposal to the West Coast. Never got approval by the Federal Energy Board, National Energy Board. Then one called Energy East. That was going to go all the way to New Brunswick. And nobody in any of the provinces or like Montreal didn't want that one either. So that one didn't happen, leaving 3 pipelines. So you got landlocked oil in the middle of the tar sands that they got to get out somehow, right? Those 3 pipelines, Trans Mountain, now known as Trudeau West. And then there's the Enbridge, Line 3. And Enbridge is the largest tar sands mover. Just to be clear about this, they move 2/3 of the tar sands oil. The third is Trans Canada. Now they rename themselves like they all do. I think it's TC Energy or something like that. They always rename themselves. They have an identity crisis. So anyway, everybody's fighting them lines because they're all stupid lines. Keystone. So these are the last 3 lines. It's kind of like, I call this it's kind of like the last tar sands pipeline. You know, it's like a movie or something like that, because someone's got to be the last one, right? And so they have all this oil, but it's $82 a barrel. And now it's minus $37 a barrel. So that's a disparity. And these guys are getting out of the tar sands. The Koch brothers got out of the tar sands last summer, just like a month before David Koch, rest in peace, died. Probably choked on his own greed. You know, they got out at lost a great amount of money getting out. Everybody's bailed out of the tar sands because it's a disaster ecologically and economically, let alone in terms of human rights. So anyway, the 3 pipelines, Trans Mountain. Now that one owned by Kinder Morgan, about 2 years ago, they're like, oh no, the Indians are gonna fight us. There's a giant come out of Standing Rock. Oh my God, look at this. So who buys it but Trudeau? The prime minister, the head guy in Canada, he buys that. So that's why I call it Trudeau West. And then to get it through, you got to have the consent of the Indians. So he creates this set of entities, and he repackages the pipeline. I'm not lying to you. It's called the Reconciliation Pipeline, and it's I can't make this shit up. Anyway, so his idea is to get the Indians to own the debt on the pipeline, which is like $700 million worth of something, you know, and their payments are, no, it's $7 billion, excuse me. Oh, what am I doing with my math? So you've got these little bands of like 150 people that are going to have like debt for 70 years in what's called I think that's called a stranded asset. Y'all follow me on this one? So anyway, we're fighting that one. And then you got Keystone, which just got handed a setback significant by the judge out of Montana. And then you got this one here, line 3, which we told them they're never going to get. You know, and they're sitting there. I said, you got 6 pipelines. Grow up. Go clean up your old mess. You know, end of the fossil fuel era. You ain't going to get a new line. So fighting them for 7 darn years. You know, and, you know, I was praying and we tried to do everything. And I'm 60 years old. You know, I'll go throw down with all them other fine Minnesotans who throw down. I'm a water protector. But for crying out loud, you want to shoot me for a Canadian corporation? Really? You know, you want to shoot a bunch of 60-year-old women for a Canadian pipeline company? Come on, Governor Wolf. Anyway, so our battle is regulatory, legal, you know, and then but you know, Enbridge is so desperate. They like are trying to swing this. They like increase the amount of hatred and racism, you know. It's really bad, you know, how they do this. But you know what? I seen Dune Lankard and it was funny. I was hanging out with Dune Lankard and Sarah James. You know, yeah, right? You know, a couple of cool, and we're all kind of old cats, you know, and we spent our whole lives doing this stuff, kind of like you, Toby. And Dune says, he looks at me and he looks at Sarah. He says, hey, maybe we'll just outlive our enemies. Sorry. But, you know, do cool stuff. Don't be a jerk. You know, and this economy this is called the end of the fossil fuel era. And that's what it looks like. Time to move on. Let's go solar. Use less. Ride your bike.
With a few years now since Standing Rock, I'm wondering what your reflections are on the meaning and the importance of the Standing Rock experience and what happened there.
Well, you know, Standing Rock is a Selma moment. You know, just like this total awareness. And, you know, I just had finished the footnotes on a book. Oh my God, books are arduous when you got so many footnotes, huh? My God. They asked me when Matthew King said this, and I was like, I mean, you know this story, right? It's like, Matthew King, let me find that citation. Anyway, Matthew King said this great thing. He said, a lot of great things. He said, he's Oglala chief. He passed away. Great Oglala leader. He said, the only thing sadder than an Indian who isn't free is an Indian who doesn't remember what it's like to be free. In Standing Rock, we remembered what it was like to be free. We ain't forgetting it. We're all awake, you know? So that's what I think about. We're all awake, and we were water protectors for a while before that, you know? Out here in Minnesota, we've all been water protectors for years. You know, we've all been water protectors. And, you know, it's interesting because I write for these papers up here, these conservative papers, and I was going to write a little article. I write for the Fargo Forum about how, I think it was 3 years ago, they tried to ban wearing face masks in North Dakota. And I was like, y'all looking good now. Look like water protectors.
You know, as an outsider kind of ally, for me, Standing Rock was a moment when it seemed as if the world got it. You know, the idea of Indigenous treaties and the meaning of water being sacred and how to be a good ally. And I remember walking into our editing room and talking to our editor, and she said that her 10-year-old kid was like breaking his piggy bank open and saying, hey, Mom, send this to Standing Rock. You know, it was like everybody got that feeling of wanting to be supportive and not trying to take over, hopefully. But anyway, it was a real turning point moment, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, there's a lot of places that are really like panoramically graphic, but that was pretty damn, you know, epic. That's epic, you know. And you know, it's interesting because you know, I mean, all my kids were out there at Standing Rock. I lost my youngest son way out there for about a week with a beautiful young woman. Way to be a 17-year-old boy. It was a blizzard.
Well, that's what those meetings were like in the old days, right? That's what they were for.
All right. It was a gathering and visiting. But anyway, they all know that was epic. And then, being out here and then just continuing to be a water protector facing basically, because Enbridge owns a third of the Dakota Access Pipeline, so continuing that. And then now we're growing hemp, you know that, huh?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm all ready for I call it the new green revolution, because that's what you need is you need a materials economy that's not made out of plastic, and you need, there's this really great, I heard this Kentucky farmer say it, and then I heard some other people, but it was like, we had a choice between a carbohydrate economy and a hydrocarbon economy. How interesting. A carbohydrate economy or a hydrocarbon economy. And they are so darn close in their word, right? But, now's the time to go back to that other economy. That's not made of fossil fuels. And so, what I like is that them same kids I took to Standing Rock are growing hemp now. And I was like, look at that. I said, we're the new revolution out here. And they're like, yeah, I like it. So might as well just keep doing it, That's what I felt like.
So here's a question. When we filmed in the tar sands, my entire crew came back pretty shell-shocked from the experience. It's just, and I'm thinking of you, fighting these battles for, 40 years or more. And one of the conversations that goes on amongst, my colleagues is how to deal with the grief, how to deal with the sadness that we feel watching what's been happening over all these years. We put our hearts out there to try to change things, and we get Trump, So I'm just wondering what's your antidote to deal with the grief? What do you have to say to folks who are just, really struggling with that sadness from tar sands to pipelines to species extinction and climate change? It's a tough world.
Tell them to do something beautiful. Do something beautiful because, we humans got the opportunity to do like something awesome. So do it. I don't want to say don't wallow in it, we all try to sort, I don't know how to, it's like the ecological Auschwitz. That's what the tar sands is, and that's what, and Fort McMurray is Bedsin, whatever, that little town. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just keep them trains rolling, and that's what I say. I'm saying that industry is the same. It's the same grief. It's the same experience, and so I feel like that we need to end that. Your grief is resolved through, you heal stuff, and we ain't gonna fix everything, but nobody thought a bat could do this much, the Ojibwe stories, like bats have an epic part in Ojibwe history. They created all these changes in the world, and I was like, and that's the thing about a lot of Native people is that they got some story about some little bitty creature that nobody cared about that saved the world, right? Right, and here's Krista's talking about my beautiful thing is coordinating planting. Yeah, grow something. Grow some hope. As contagious as COVID is and germs, so is hope. Do something awesome and just catch a little of that, right?
Yeah, thank you. So let's see about some questions here from folks. How are you working with Sarah James in the Arctic Refuge? And do you think we can win that one? Do you think oil drilling can be stopped up there?
I think you just keep pushing because, the Saudis and the Russians did us a pretty big favor in that price war, huh? And that stuff is expensive, and the longer you battle, the more shot you got. And then we got to, so I'm sitting here, I'm like a lot of the rest of you. I'm like, well, what do I want? I don't want to spend all my time waiting for them to figure it out. And I was thinking, so I'm writing this piece now called the Snellman Junction. Because there's a highway in front of, I'm sitting at my office and my farm is on the other side. And I'm looking at this highway and they want to widen it. I was like, why don't you put in an electric train? Right? Like solutionary rail. Like re-envision something. You know, start saying what it is, you know, piece by piece. So, you know, I'm going to write this article for the conservative papers that says, what about Snellman Junction? What if you could like take a little train from Fargo, you know, a little electric train and drop off at your lake cabin, you know? Think about, I mean, you live in the city, so you got like mass transportation, but out here, you know, people got a pickup truck, you know? I mean, it's like interesting, it's, you know, an interesting moment. Well, someone just asked me this. I got to show you all something here. Someone just asked about Trudel.
Okay.
I was listening to Trudel lately. He makes me think a lot about this, but this really cool woman, that's beaded.
Oh, nice.
Uh-huh. So he's the patron saint of the hemp farm. He would like that.
I met you, Winona, when we were both going to hear John Trudel speak. It was September 1979. And I came also to hear you, but I had just written a story about the Church Rock tailings spill in New Mexico. And I looked in front of me, the person sitting in front of me had the article that I'd written, first thing I'd ever published, which was about the Church Rock spill. And then it was you. And I sort of tapped you on the shoulder and said, hey, I wrote that. And that was, I think you were 19 and I was 25 at that point. So anyway, you were fighting the coal mines, strip mines on Navajo, power plants, uranium mining, and we were making the Four Corners film. And anyway, it's been a long 4 decades.
79. Now that's when we first came to know each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and we do different things, like, because we're both like kind of frontline mining, and he was documenting it. He's such a good writer, you know, and I was just learning how to write, you know, and it was frustrating. That wasn't frustrating, but like you had this story and nobody really wanted to hear it necessarily. You know, so we were working, and so Toby started telling the stories like what was going on down there, and so that was really good. We worked together a lot on that, and then his film, and then we had these interactions around these questions of technology. You know, technology under the invisible line, and it's so funny because I have paradigm wars here. I was talking to someone. I said, I think that this is like 20 years ago. Indigenous people saying you have a conflict between the Indigenous worldview, right?
Yeah.
You know.
Shout out
Jerry Mander's work and all. Yeah.
That was go ahead. You go ahead.
No, but you know, so I've always admired Toby's work over all these years and really appreciated our friendship. So thanks for asking. Thanks for asking.
I'm glad we're doing this today. Here's a question from Peggy Lauer, old friend. Can you share what ancestors are telling you during this time about how to act now?
Well, you know, my father was a big proponent of doing what I'm doing right now. Long time ago, he said, one day there's not going to be food in the stores. You should grow your own food. And so last year I had this like really like kind of an anxiety about it, you know, because I had started, fighting pipelines is like not my idea of what I want to do with my life. I really like farming, you know, and writing, and I like this making the solution, not dealing with the problem, you know. But, you know, there need to be more problem solvers and less problem makers, really. You know, so I really doubled my agricultural production last year, and, started figuring it out. And then this year it's like 4 times larger or 5. And then we're growing in the community. So that's like, my dad was pretty big, you know, proponent of that. And then, you know, I think about, you know, all of my old people, and they were sensible people. You know, they didn't waste stuff. They like, why you waste that? You know, and it's super interesting seeing like how much junk we have, and then how much of that you can repurpose. So we were sitting here, and 10 people in our community want grow boxes. So we were looking around, and we're taking apart pallets. You know what I'm saying? It's just like we just need to make stuff out of the stuff we already have. Don't get more stuff, you know, and quit using stuff. So I feel like, you know, I mean, that's kind of the very present ancestor collection. But the prophecy says this is the time of the 7th fire, and that we have a choice between 2 paths. One path, they say, is well-worn but scorched, and the other path is not well-worn and it's green. You know, and it's be our choice which path to embark on. And then they say, you know, there's this discussion about the lighting of the 8th fire, which is this time of peace and harmony. You know, and I feel like that you got to go out there and do it and light the fire. You can't like sit there at the crossroads and go, I don't know. You know, that's not a very good survival plan. And this summer, you know, is going to teach us that. You guys got, you know, endless growing season. You know, we need to figure out how to, and I also feel like that another thing about COVID I noticed is that, you know, remember how Trudell used to always say the difference between a wage slave and a slave in chains is that the second one knows exactly where he stands? Do you remember him saying that? The difference between a wage slave and a slave in chains. You know, and I think about that, and we are in this system of consumption. I mean, the story of Stuff, Annie Leonard's work, right? We're in this society of like, everything costs so darn much, you know, and it doesn't need to. And so how, I think that during this moment, people are thinking about, you know, maybe I don't want a 70-hour work week, you know, and what if people could work at home? And what if people, you know, if we change, you know, so that's what I'm hoping comes out of this too, is quality of life. You know, like we want a quality of life. And, you know, so be courageous. That's what I think for people, you know, be courageous. You know, let's envision what we want and make it. You know, because if you're waiting for somebody to make it for you, that hasn't worked out. How so well has it? You know, a bat had to come change your world.
I think a lot of people are going to start growing their food with the growing season starting here. We're all going to dust off our gloves and, you know, find those corn seeds. And here's a question that relates to what you just said about Trudell, about wage slaves. I envision those tar sands workers in those man camps, you know, all packed in there together. It's like, so here's the question. What have you learned about how to talk with Indigenous people who are working for the tar sands companies?
You know, I don't go so much in the tar sands, but there's, you know, Enbridge has invested a lot of money here in tribal communities, you know, got tribal, you know, all kind of people, like they did like a cultural resource assessment express class, like, you know, just like get everybody to say it's good on that pipeline, you know, so all kind of wheelings and dealings. You know, a lot of people come to me and they kind of confess and are ashamed, you know? I mean, they're like, you know, Auntie, I took a job. I said, well, make sure that the pipes they got in don't leak, you know? I mean, they already got you know, them and the Koch brothers got old infrastructure here now. I don't want nothing to leak. You know, so we should have all of those jobs, and taking out pipelines, shit. Taking out pipelines is $2 billion to take out the old line 3. That's labor. Give that to our people, you know, plus all that, you know, all that trespass damages and stuff. So I kind of look at, you know, that's kind of my piece. The larger piece is that look, you know, look what has happened to our people. You know, our people don't feel good about that. That's like such, you know, a self-medicated rationalization that people are in dire pain from the circumstances they are forced into, you know? I mean, I had Enbridge writing letters from chiefs up in Canada, like, we love the tar sands, we love the pipelines. I said, good on you, we can drink our water still. I mean, those guys can't even drink their water. It's tragic. It's tragic with these corporations, and the Canadian government is the most egregious. You know, people want to talk about Canada. Canada is such a disgrace in terms of its human rights, you know, to Indigenous people. Just such a disgrace, you know, and it's such an opportunity. I mean, it's the same opportunity. There's like 20,000 tar sands workers laid off now. I'm like, Trudeau, Green New Deal. I mean, time to move them on. Instead of trying to, you know, there's this crisis is opportunity. It's always that, you know, and so do something enlightened and awesome. You know, that's what I tell Governor Walz in Minnesota, is you got people clamoring for a job in the iron mines, 1% ore, right? And work on a tar sands pipeline. I was like, build some infrastructure, the $7 billion of infrastructure Minnesota needs. You got bridges that collapse, you know? Do good stuff with those workers. So I feel like I don't shame them. You know, I hang my head in sorrow. I hang my head in sorrow. And then I move on, you know, because they are victims too, but they need to find themselves again, you know?
Well, hopefully
Well,
restoration economy will offer an opportunity. So here's a
Yeah.
question from Jessica Abbey.
Oh,
In addition to hemp, what are you planting?
a good question. Okay, so I'm really into potatoes, heritage potatoes.
Mm.
So, you know, everybody likes potatoes, so I grow like the purple ones. That's like my gig. Of course, I have to grow like the most interesting potatoes. So I really grow good potatoes. I got purple potatoes. I got kind of all 3-4 varieties of corn going in here. And then we have, of course, the Lakota squash are already off and running. I don't know, the spirit of volunteerism all over those Lakota squash. I've got like 40 plants already going. And then I grow heritage beans, you know, like all the dry beans. Like I'm interested in kind of reduced petroleum economics and reduced petroleum agriculture. So I specialize in doing stuff that you can keep easy, you know, without like having to flash freeze dry it or something like that, right?
Mm.
And then tobacco, Jerusalem artichokes, and then a lot of basil, tomatoes, peppers. That's, I think, our gig mostly. Yeah. I'd like to grow Brussels sprouts, but I think that's next year. I need a Brussels sprouts coach. So.
And what's your vision for the hemp? Tell people a little bit about what you're doing with hemp.
Right. Okay. So Winona's Hemp. That's me. Winona's Hemp. And then we have Anishinaabe Agriculture. That's this office that we're in right now. So our plan is to rebuild the cannabis economy. I don't like saying hemp so much. So the word canvas comes from cannabis. That's what I'm after. Like if we could just make canvas again, you know, because there's like 10,000 lakes and 1 million boats in Minnesota covered with blue plastic. How dumb is that? You know, we should have canvas. Again, things that are post-fossil fuels. So I'm interested in textiles, you know, but I have all this hemp here, and I have last year's crop, which is this really interesting crop that came in, and I'm hand decorticating some of it because it's, you know, what happened is that when they criminalized the industry, it froze at like 1930, and then really they actually, you know, there's that who killed the electric car? Well, there's like who killed hemp and where'd the body go? Because there's really no evidence of the industry that exists. And so like we're looking through all this, like it's like this mystery. So I've been traveling, or I haven't been traveling, I've been reviewing. I sent my hemp off to England. I sent it, you know, we're seeing who's working on it, but Belgium's the place. And then I think Romania. So I want to build a hemp mill. Like I want to do artisan stuff. That's awesome. My first, oh, you'll like this, Toby. My first crop this year, my best crop from this last year is going to the Navajo rug weavers. Oh yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. In Church Rock.
Really?
There's some of those people are going to use our hemp. So that's like, how cool, much cooler could you be? And then we're going to make some hempcrete houses, you know? So I'm starting, you know, but that's what you need is, you know, you got, you know, half your people don't have adequate housing. You know, hey, quit it. That's a dog. It's okay. She's just growling at various things.
That's what they do. How are you? You worked for years on solar and wind on native land. How is that going and how is it growing?
Oh, okay. So last year we launched 8th Fire Solar. Remember I told you about that prophecy, 8th Fire Solar. So it's a solar thermal manufacturing facility, 8th Fire Solar, 8, the number 8. And so what we do is we make these panels that you put them on the south facing wall of a house. You know, we've been doing it for years kind of, but we bought the technology, transfer agreement, all of the patents or whatever, you know, so we could make it ourselves on the reservation. And so we make these, it's like 4x8 panel, although it could be 4x10 or 4x6, and it goes on a south facing wall and it can reduce your heating bill by about 20%. What a good idea. And so it's kind of a passive solar. So it's like a, you know, it's kind of like dark, it's a dark glass. And then the heat gets in there, it heats up inside because it's dark. And then when it hits like 90 degrees, the thermostat turns on the blower fan and it blows hot air into your house. And what is great about Minnesota is that it's cold as heck, but sunny all winter. So the Dakotas, Minnesota, you know, all perfect for solar thermal. And so that's our thing. And we just sold another panel today. You know, it kind of shut down during this last while. And so I sent all my guys to the field to plant. But they'll be back building panels here in a couple, I mean, because you got to plant now, you know? And so they're pretty happy, actually. They like it outside. But yeah, solar thermal, that's what we're interested in. And it really should be a technology that should be put on a lot of houses, because why would you want to purchase that extra 20% of your heat from a fossil fuel company, you know, if you could get it from the sun, right?
Okay, folks, keep those questions coming. Let's see. Yeah.
I seen you asked me about solar thermal heat of water. We don't do that, but we should. So I think we're going to figure that one out too, because I think we could. I think that, I don't know, that might be a little over my technology head, but.
So speaking of heating water, Claire Greensfelder's celebrating the closure of the Indian Point nuclear power plant in New York. They got 2 reactors, I think, left. One is shutting down today, and the other
Oh my gosh, that's so great. Congratulations, Claire.
And the other one's going to shut down in a year. So she was asking, what's the latest on the uranium mining front? Seems like a good time to kiss nuclear goodbye once and for all.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that I don't know what's happening with that Nebraska permit, you know, in that endless pursuit of that little speck of uranium in the Black Hills. You know, I kind of lost track of where they were at in that. You know, hats off to Deb Whiteplume and all of those Charmaine Whiteface who've been fighting that, you know, endlessly, that stupidity at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. I'm actually not sure where they got to in that, you know, but, you know, just praying that, you know, we can continue to fend that off. But, you know, Crow Butte is, I think, still operating. That's the one in Nebraska. That's the only operating uranium mine in the country. And you know, a lot of us didn't really know much about that one. And they're trying to, you know, I understood they were trying to expand what's in situ. But I don't think that they've got those permits yet. So
I think that mill in Blanding, Utah is still working. And the Washington Post came up with, you know, when Trump shrunk the size of Bears Ears National Monument, they were able to show that it was some uranium mining company pressure. Not that they want to mine necessarily, but they just want that future option to be open forever. I'm not sure if there's really oil and gas around Bears Ears, but there's definitely tar sands in the middle of it, and there's uranium around there too. So that's one of the stories to watch, is how, you know, whether we can get Bears Ears back as a tribally managed national monument. But there's uranium there. Yeah.
No, I mean, I know that we just got to keep pushing. And you know, the answers are quite apparent. One, you got to consume less, you know, because I notice it myself. I always spout off that, you know, I think it's up to 60% of our energy is wasted as a country, you know, and so then I started, you know, like really putting myself on a diet, a fossil fuels diet. I mean, aside from not traveling, then you're looking at like, what are we doing here? What's the energy equation that we're dealing with? You know, and so, you know, we'll spend our lives fighting the next stupid project until we cut our consumption and, you know, relocalize. And, you know, I'm going to, you know, so I'm out here and I'm thinking about like summer projects. A lot of people want to come visit, but I think I'm going to give them a project. I'm like, so let's power those computers and PSP4s all on bike power. Let's do that.
That'll keep us at home.
Yeah. Just like, you know, I mean, I want to try, you know, what does relocalized power really look like? You know, and I got like, you know, did I tell you I'm quarantined with all these kids?
Yeah, you mentioned 7
there's
of them.
There's like 7, you know,
yeah,
there's like 7 to 15 or something like that. But, you know, so that's a lot of pedal power.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm kind of like, they are so unconscious of their energy use. Right? You know, and so I'm like, start cutting your carbon footprint. And then, you know, some people are like, well, I eat this. I was like, well, that comes from Malaysia, doesn't it, huh? You know, I mean, so I think we all do that, you know, really start cutting back, but it's obviously, it's a societal problem. It's not just our individual consumption. But the more we push, you know, the easier, because it's not right to ask renewable energy to power 60% waste.
Yeah.
Right? It's wrong to like say, well, I'm just going to get some big hydro dams. Some person was asking about, that's not renewable energy. That's a hydro dam, So we got to cut our consumption. Yeah, you should use that, Alma.
Do you see yourself traveling less in the future?
It's a funny question because last year, I don't want to say anything mean, but I really wanted Bioneers to let me Skype. And Bioneers was like, no, we have to be there in person. And I was like, I'm farming in the middle of a pipeline battle. And I like you all. I like everybody, but maybe I can't go. And so I'd be happy to, do some things like this, because I could show people cool stuff. We're doing cool stuff. Plus my painting will be done in a month or so. My upgrade.
So you can read these chat questions as well.
This massive crack in capitalism. I am all there. Yeah. I mean, the UN is, everybody's been talking about this. You can't keep this stuff up. We all knew that. But now, they're trying to keep it up, and, their globalized supply chain doesn't make a lot of sense in a pandemic. Who the hell thought it was a smart idea to raise shrimp in Scotland, send them to China to be deveined, and then shipped to Walmart in Topeka, Kansas? Who thought that was a good idea? Right? I'm just like, I feel like we should, there's this list of preposterous ideas out there that are just kind of becoming unraveled. 75% of our pharmaceuticals are made in China. That was smart. We offshored all of our textiles. We don't get, do anything. We offshored them in the 80s and 90s. Who thought that was a good idea? And then we don't make anything. We just shop, and so time to relocalize, rebuild start building stuff that matters. Wind turbines. So I had this moment. I was driving up to Bemidji, and I crossed the Enbridge pipeline, and I always stop to make sure that nothing's leaking, so I stopped there. There's, 3 of them sitting right there. I was looking, it's all good. And then I see this load coming toward me. It's this wide load. And so I just stay there to watch. And it was wind turbine parts. Wow. And so it was like this intersection. And I was like, it's the two worlds meeting here at the pipe yard.
It's a filmmaker's moment there. Get that shot.
I did. I was like, yeah. I did get them coming. But the thing is that these wind turbine parts come into the port of Duluth from Europe, because almost all of the wind turbines parts are made in Europe or China. I was like, so you got, and then they're going down these back roads to get to Nebraska. I was like, why don't you make that stuff here? So I just see that this is this opportunity. The Green New Deal is what we're talking about. In some, I call it the Sitting Bull plan. He said, let us put our minds together to see what kind of future we can make for our children. We need to all put our minds together. And AOC and all the other awesome women who are changing Congress, they got them to talk about it. Bernie got them to talk about it, but we need to do it. And then you're looking out there and the big tech guys, a lot of them are already going renewable. Google, we could say all kind of smack about all those guys, but they're buying all solar and electric cars. So, change it, change stuff, just start. Okay.
It's such a beautiful note as we get closer to ending. What I hear your message to folks being is, it's not to wait around and think about how the Green New Deal is going to come about, but to actually everybody participate locally in living it and growing our own food and being part of renewable energy and consuming less, and all these ways we have to be consistent and, change our lifestyles and how we work to be part of that. And that's the way it's gonna take off and happen.
Right. And I feel like you got a learning moment right now. Don't be tweeting. I feel like, this one sister moves up here. She's quarantined in the North Woods, but she's essential at the university. She's 6 hours of Skype meetings a day. And they're all like, well, what are we going to do? I was like, oh my God. You know, I know there's a whole bunch of people out there going like, well, what if? I was like, well, we don't know. So why don't you do something rather than vex about it? You know, I mean, you know, and then I got all these kids being homeschooled. It's so funny because they have like this one studying like Byzantine history. I was like, well, seems like a different history moment right now. You know, like, why are you trying to get these kids? They don't want to learn that. They're living in the middle of like what the most epic times that they're going to see in their lives. You know, so seize the time, take the moment, you know, like, be awesome. Take the reins, baby. Take the reins. That's what I'd say.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, lest we keep everybody here on their screens much longer, I notice it's about that moment you've got another call to move on to. So Winona, thank you so much. It's been a great hour. Really, really appreciate your time, and grow that hemp and have a great summer. All right.
And then honorearth.org. You can look us up either at honorearth.org on the Pipeline Battle or Winona's Hemp. Keep up on and pray with us. Give me another year. We'd be maybe 2 years on the canvas, but we're going to keep at it. And we all got to work on it together. That's the other thing. The future economy is not competition, it's cooperation. That's how you save the world and yourself. Work together.
Beautiful. Thanks, Winona.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care.
Bye. Really fun seeing you, TM.
You too. Adios. Bye-bye. Thank you.